Hello, Tech Fam. Welcome back to another power packed episode of Top Tech Gossip with Sana, where we go beyond the buzzwords and into the beating heart of innovation. Now, if you've been following the AI space lately, you've probably heard one phrase again and again: we don't have enough GPUs. It's not a meme, it's not just a startup excuse. It's the real bottleneck slowing down some of the most ambitious AI deployments across the world. And in today's episode, we're diving into that rabbit hole: the GPU wars, the wild race for compute, and how Cyfuture's multi vendor GPU strategy isn't just smart, it's essential to survive this new era of enterprise AI. And helping us break it all down, as always, is the voice of calm in this compute chaos: our resident AI/ML maestro, Sam. Sam, tell me honestly, do you even dream of GPUs at this point?
I won't lie, Sana. It's become a bit of an obsession. We used to talk about models, use cases, benchmarks. Now, it's all about how many H100s you can get your hands on, and if you're lucky, when they'll actually arrive. We've entered a phase where infrastructure has become the competitive edge, and nothing is more central to that than GPUs.
Let's set the stage for our listeners. What's really going on with this GPU crunch? Why has compute become more valuable than capital in some cases?
It's a perfect storm, really. So, first, the demand side. Over the past 18 months, we've seen an explosion of AI model training, fine tuning, and deployment, especially since the launch of GPT-4 and Claude. But those models don't run on ordinary CPUs. They need parallel processing, high bandwidth memory, and enormous throughput. All things GPUs are built for. Now combine that with the supply bottlenecks. NVIDIA dominates the high-end GPU market, with chips like the A100 and H100. But even they can't scale fast enough to meet global demand. Add export restrictions to China, increasing demand from sovereign nations, and hyperscalers hoarding GPUs for internal use. And suddenly, there just aren't enough GPUs for everyone else. According to TrendForce, GPU availability is lagging 40% behind enterprise AI demand globally. And Omdia's 2025 compute forecast estimates that AI data centers will need nearly 2 times the number of high-performance GPUs by next year to meet enterprise and government demand. That's not happening unless you radically rethink how you approach infrastructure.
So it's not just about money, it's about access. Even if you've got the budget, you might be waiting 6 months for the chips to show up.
Exactly. And that's where strategy kicks in. Because if you're an AI-first company, like we are at Cyfuture, and you're building mission-critical infrastructure for enterprises and public sector clients, you can't afford to stall because your preferred vendor is backlogged. That's why we made the decision last year to go multi-vendor and build a flexible, intelligent GPU infrastructure layer.
Okay, explain that like I'm not an infra architect. What does multi vendor mean in practice? And how is it different from just having lots of GPUs?
Great question. Most companies, especially those new to enterprise AI, bet everything on one stack, usually NVIDIA. It's safe, high performance, and deeply integrated with popular ML frameworks. But it's also a single point of failure. If you can't get more chips, or prices double overnight, you're stuck. Cyfuture chose to avoid that trap by building compatibility and optimization layers that allow us to run different types of models on different GPUs, including NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel. So, for example, we might train large vision language models on NVIDIA H100 clusters for peak performance. But for high volume, lower latency inference tasks, like chatbots serving 50,000 government users in multiple languages, we can run those on AMD MI300 accelerators, or even Intel Gaudi 2s, which are cheaper and available sooner. And soon, with chiplets, RISC-V accelerators, and players like Tenstorrent entering the market, We're already architecting our software to be vendor neutral and hardware adaptive.
This feels like the cloud wars all over again. Except now it's happening at the silicon level.
Spot on. We're watching the decentralization of AI infrastructure. Cloud was the first wave, where people moved from owning servers to renting compute. Now we're in the GPU wave, where access to specific chips can define who builds the best models fastest. And here's the real kicker. Companies are no longer just choosing between NVIDIA and AMD. They're choosing between on-prem versus cloud, shared GPUs versus dedicated, and even sovereign versus global compute. That's why at Cyfuture, we're building data centers in India, investing in GPU as a service, and supporting private LLM deployments. So clients don't have to depend on global availability or public clouds. It's about sovereignty, speed, and scalability.
Let's talk numbers for a second. What does this mean for clients? Is this just about Cyfuture being smart? Or do customers actually see the difference?
They absolutely feel it. For example, one of our BFSI clients in India needed a fine-tuned LLM for customer support across 5 Indian languages, deployed on-prem for compliance reasons. Instead of waiting 6 months for NVIDIA clusters, we deployed a hybrid AMD plus Intel GPU stack, optimized our model pipeline using LoRa, low-rank adaptation, and ONNX-based quantization, and reduced their total cost of inference by over 40%, while meeting their latency SLA of under 250 milliseconds. That's not theoretical, that's competitive edge.
So Cyfuture is not just renting GPUs. You're reimagining how infrastructure fuels enterprise AI.
Exactly. We see infrastructure not as a back-end concern, but as a product advantage. And this is where it gets really strategic. Because we are also seeing the rise of AI native infrastructure players. Think of companies like CoreWeave in the US or Lambda, or even Indian hyperscalers trying to enter this space. But what differentiates Cyfuture is that we're not just offering raw compute. We offer orchestrated AI stacks, from data ingestion and pre-processing to training to inference to governance and monitoring, with GPUs that adapt to what each use case needs.
So here's my final question. Where is this all heading? Is the GPU war going to calm down? Or are we just getting started?
We're just getting started. 2025 to 2026 is going to see even more demand as multimodal LLMs, agentic workflows, and real-time reasoning systems go mainstream. Every enterprise will want their own foundation model. Every telco, every ministry, every health system. And with AI going mobile, wearable, and embedded, we'll also need GPUs optimized for edge inferencing, low power, and privacy-preserving processing. That means infrastructure strategies will decide winners and losers in the AI race. And those who can't adapt, or who depend too much on one chip or one cloud, will be left behind.
You heard it here, folks. The AI race isn't just about models anymore. It's about who can build, adapt, and scale fast and smart. And in a world where compute is king, having the right GPU strategy might be your biggest moat. To all our listeners, if your org is still waiting for GPUs to fall from the sky, it's time to rethink the plan. And if you want to see how an India-first, enterprise-ready infra company like Cyfuture is doing it, you know where to look. This has been Top Tech Gossip with Sana. Stay plugged in, stay sharp, and don't forget, AI runs on silicon. But strategy is still the real fuel.